Okay, well, here we are, live on a Sunday. I'm Mark Cool. This is my son, Jasper Cool. We're both real estate investors. We focus primarily in North Carolina, and Jasper does mostly wholesaling of houses, and I do a lot of land deals, also some houses and some creative financing stuff. And yeah, on Sundays for this hour, we just talk about real estate and what it's like in the trenches, just talking, closing deals, hiring and firing people, which we were just talking about offline, building a business, marketing, lead generation, all these various things that make up a successful real estate investing business. Jasper's been in business since what, 2020, 2019,
2018, almost
2018. Wow,
almost 8 years coming up on August.
man,
Actually, July 18th is when I filed my LLC, so technically it's coming up right next week. So,
man,
yeah.
God, 2018. So wait, that's 25. That's 7 years, right?
Oh,
18,
seven. Yeah, sorry.
7. Yeah.
Yeah, so
And then I started in 2021, a little bit at the tail end of 2020, but I did one deal then and then really got into it 2021. So I'm in my 5th full year, I guess, this year.
yeah,
But yeah, so we've been doing this for a combined 12 years. Plus, I had a previous real estate career when I was in my 20s. So we've done hundreds of deals, closed millions of dollars in business, and we get together on Sundays to talk about victories and challenges and how to grow and get better. And so if you're here joining us live, please drop your name in the comments or yeah, I guess names don't show up unless somebody drops it in, right? So drop your name, drop where you're listening from. If you have any questions or comments or any topics you want to talk about, just drop them in there and we'll we'll talk. But I guess we'll start off with just the week in business. Jasper, did you close anything this week?
we did. We actually had a great week this week. It was a bunch of deals closed, but they were all small profit, but we'll take it.
Yeah.
So,
Nice to
so
get them off the slate, right? To clear this.
exactly. Yeah, clean slate. We're almost to a clean slate. We need to get some more contracts in, but yeah, no, it was a good week. It was every day just felt like it was an up and down this week. Like for example, Monday was up and Tuesday was down, Wednesday was up. It just like felt like I was kind of getting punched in the face and then trying to punch back the next day. So it was kind of interesting. But yeah, we had a good week overall. I'll do the breakdown, then I can go over one of our closed deals. But we got two contracts this week, so that was a huge win. We've been a little bit slow lately, kind of averaging two a week, where we like to see it like four-ish a week usually. But two is better than nothing, so we'll take it. And we have been focusing more lately, especially lately, on getting quality contracts rather than
Yeah,
just getting
I was
contracts.
just going to
And
say that. Yeah, the numbers don't matter as much as the quality. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, because I look at, some earlier months this year, for example, we had huge months, like 15 contracts, even more than that, I think a couple months. But if half of those don't close, then we only got seven contracts, right? So it doesn't really matter. And
Well,
so,
not only that, but you're wasting time and energy because when you
yeah,
get those contracts that don't close, then dispositions is working hard and maybe transactions is working hard, and then
yeah.
they don't close. You've just put all those resources toward the deal that didn't close. So yeah, it goes back to quality.
No, it's a great point. Yeah, so that's why at the end of the first quarter, I noticed that, and we pretty much restructured our business in terms of the bonus structure because we had an incentive attached to contracts, and we just completely did away with that. And we just completely shifted all of our focus to closings and just really try to simplify things because, Alex Ramosi talks about that a lot, but the more simple your business, like usually growing your business is about removing rather than adding things in. And so I just noticed that, in Q2, we had a much better quarter than Q1. And I think it was because of that, doing away with the contract bonus, yes, but just making things more simple and just like, hey, our North Star is just closing. So we want to just close, close, close. And if the contract that we're working on, like, is not a good deal for us, then let's just toss it. Let's just, we can always rescind our offer if it's something that doesn't work for us. And then we started implementing what you do, like the post-contract review, but before we even finalize a contract, right? So like if the seller signs a contract and then we find out like real quick, we do it like our own title search, quote unquote. And if we
Yeah.
find out like there's some issues on title, there's like errors involved or stuff, we might just cancel it right there. If there's like 10 errors on the property or something, which like, you know what, it's not even worth it. or maybe we can go back to them and be like, hey, look, I'm sorry, we found this out. We need a lower price or whatever. But that's really helped. And then just yeah, just being more strict, I guess, on our guidelines on our contracts and stuff. So that's helped us a lot in Q2. I don't have my numbers right in front of me, but our ratio is much better in terms of closings, contract to close ratio. So that's been good. But anyways, that was a long-winded story. But we got two
Well,
contracts this week. What's that?
no, you got to. That detail is great, and all those little things matter. Like you said, the post contract review was a huge one when we started it too. Just like we thinned out a lot of contracts that we were going to maybe waste time on later, just by even when we learned how to pull liens from the county. Like we used to
Mhm.
always wait until closing, and then the lawyer would pull the liens from the county, and then we realized we could call the county and ask if there are any liens on,
Yeah.
especially true on vacant lots. But we had a lot of heartache over those for the first couple of years, and then when we figured out we could get it at the outset, we were canceling deals just like that. So it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
Big difference.
definitely. Definitely. And another thing we do, obviously we deal more with houses, but when we get a property under contract, it does look like a good deal. First thing that Giselle, our transactions girl, is trying to do is get the payoff. And so we try to get that within the first week of being under contract because we've lost like probably 5 deals this year due to payoffs, like coming in much higher, or seller had like multiple payoffs they didn't know about. So we try to get those right away, even though that's
Yeah, like
technically,
second loan, right? We
yeah.
had one where there was a second mortgage, and we were like, "What? We didn't know there was a second mortgage."
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes the sellers don't know. So sometimes asking them for the payoff doesn't matter because they send you one payoff and there is a second loan or a third loan sometimes. And so, but that definitely helps us getting that right up front. So we put a focus on that as well. And then another thing we added that I could share is just live transfers. That's been a huge game changer for us too, just making the whole closing process more seamless and quicker. And basically what we do is we obviously do a contract walkthrough over the phone. Like we don't send out a DocuSign just, for no reason. We do it when the seller's actually there and they can go over it with us. And so once we do that, if they, agree and sign while we're on the phone with them, my acquisition immediately transfers to our transactions, Giselle. And so that way she doesn't have to chase them down to do like her introductory call, and it's just a warm transfer and they can introduce themselves. Like it's a quick three-way, and then my acquisition jumps off and she takes it from there. So that's been a huge game changer for us. We just implemented that, I think, last month, and it's been a total game changer. Just really helping move things along much faster because it kind of turned into the same scenario where you run into on the acquisition side, where a lot of times, sellers ghost us. That happens to everyone. But now it was happening on our contracts. So where they were sending just a text introduction, like, hey, this is Giselle's number. She's going to be reaching out to you, be on the lookout for a call, but they just don't care. And so some sellers like would just take 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks to even get them on the phone. And then at that point, we're just like, we're halfway through our escrow period, on our contract, and we don't even have pictures. We don't even know what's going on, So it's like, that was a huge, it was expanding our cash conversion cycle, obviously, because if we can't get pictures for 3 weeks, then we can't close it for another 3, 4 weeks, So anyways, that's really helped us. So if anyone's not doing that, I would definitely recommend that. It's really helpful
The other
for us.
piece of that too, for us at least, and I don't know if you run into this, is the seller information sheet that most attorneys require, with all the
Hmm.
information and then the mortgage information and then you know whatever, everything they need to prepare the closing documents. We've had an issue where that's delayed closings because the seller will just be like, yeah, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, I'll get to it, and they never get to it. But we're
Yeah.
trying to do front load that and just get all the information, collect it ourselves, fill out that sheet and send it to the lawyer, rather than be like, the lawyer's like, well, we want to close, but we're waiting for the seller information sheet.
Yeah.
It's it's
Yeah. We do
just
that. We do that too. That's a total game changer. So that's awesome. But we just load it up in DocuSign and then we just send it over to them. And if they're like elderly or something, we'll just do it for them over the phone. So
yeah.
yeah, but yeah, that's a great piece of advice. That really helps because then they don't have any excuse to closing attorney. It's like, look, we got you everything you need. Now it's on your plate. So, but yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, those are some just piece of advice on the contract side. And then we did get two closes or two sold this week, so that was good. One of
Nice.
those, it's funny. Two of those were kind of the same story. So one of them we had sold in New Western, another one and didn't work out. And so thankfully we had a few backup offers and we were able to get it resold after New Western didn't come through for us. And so that was that. And then it's funny, that's the other deal I was excited about because we got pictures of this property and we try to do that sometimes. Like we get pictures of the property first, and then, you've mentioned this before, but we'll kind of pre-shop it to our buyers with those pictures. So we'll be like, hey, look, we got this deal. that's in your area. We got these pictures, where would you be at on this property? And so we try to do that, especially in some cases, you'll have sellers coming to you that need to close like really fast. Maybe they got burned by another wholesaler. Maybe they're in foreclosure, any matter of reasons. Maybe they're moving out of state. But when sellers come to us and they're really kind of nervous and they kind of want like that quote unquote guarantee, we don't ever like to give anyone a guarantee unless we have those pictures and we have it pre-sold to a buyer, right? So that's what we try to do in that case, so that we're not like letting people down, and that leads to obviously bad reviews and just bad taste in their mouth and stuff. So,
Yeah. You don't want to be doing stuff from an integrity standpoint either with people. You don't want to be making a promise that you can't deliver on.
Exactly. Yeah. So anytime we run into that situation, that's what we like to do. And so we did it this week and it didn't work. So it was really, really frustrating. So I'm still kind of dealing with that, but I did exactly what I just shared. We got pictures first. We sent it out to, a handful of VIP buyers in the area, and one buyer that we're under contract with on another one, she's a really good buyer. And she was like, yeah, I'll take it. And I was like, awesome. And so we didn't even have a contract yet, but I was like, sweet. So I was like, you're good at this price, right? She was like, yeah. And she actually went and walked the property too. I wanted to make sure that she was good, because this seller was like, I want to close in 2 weeks, like 14 days, not business days. I was like, okay. Anyways, and so we had it like pre-sold to her. We got the property under contract. And then the next morning, she's like, my lender had to go to the hospital or something. It kind of sounded like an excuse, but she backed out. And so so that
A
was,
lender had to go to the hospital. That does sound like BS. Yeah.
yeah, and so that was painful because obviously she backed out, but then we just kind of made this promise to the seller. And hopefully the seller is reasonable and they know like nothing's guaranteed. Our contract obviously states like we need to inspect the property also. So we could like weasel out of the contract, but I don't want to do that. Like I really want to, close it for them because they're trying to close ASAP. And so we're kind of putting our trust in New Western now on this one, because they told us, they're like, yeah, we feel really good, like we can get this one done. And it's vacant, it's not like a difficult situation necessarily. So I was like, okay. And so I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. It's their inspection period is like tomorrow. They're doing like their walkthrough or whatever. So I'm just really hoping that they can pull through for us, because oftentimes New Western doesn't. So we'll see. But
Yeah.
that's my
What's your
deal story this
success
week.
with
So
Western with closed deals? 60%, 70%?
I would say 50 or less. Yeah,
So they make a commitment to you and then they pull out 50% of the time.
at least. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that's a 50-50 shot. So we'll see.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah. But I hope we can do it. So I'll update everyone next time and see what happens. But yeah, that was our week in dispo this week. We had two, up and down dispo days where we thought we sold something and they backed out and then we resold it. So I'm keeping faith in both of those second buyers. Hopefully they'll close. And then for closings, we had a great week for closings. We closed 6 deals this week, and yeah, one of those came from you. So thank you. Yeah. So thank you for the referral fee. That was one of ours this week. And we had actually 4 JV deals this week. So thank you for your referral. And then we had 3 other people that brought us JV deals. So, obviously typically on JV deals, you're not making like a massive profit, because you're splitting it with other people, but we still, it adds up. So we appreciate all those people. But I will share the story on one that we closed because it was kind of a funny story. So we closed one this week. I think I shared briefly like part of the story when we got the contract, but this lead actually was a referral as well. And so this lead came to us from a referral. I think it was pretty recently. Like this deal moved pretty quickly. But yeah, the lead came in June 17th. So that was less than a month ago. And so it came in June 17th. We got her under contract on Saturday, June 21st. So like 3-4 days. And this was really funny because she came in as a referral and my acquisition like immediately reached out to her, all the stuff. They were going back and forth via text, and she was on a different time zone. I alluded to this in a past episode, but so she was on a different time zone. He was staying late to like text her because she was in Alaska anyways. And so they were texting, and she agreed to our offer. And then we sent her over the contract, and she's literally picking apart our contract line by line, literally line by line, not even like clause by clause, but line by line. And she was like, nope, we're not doing this. We're doing this. Nope, we're doing this. I need to change this to this. And I was just like me and my acquisition were just like talking about it, laughing about it. And she just kept sending, and I was like, you can just tell her, like, send this all to us in an email or a text all at once. Like, we're not going to change the contract every 5 seconds and then send it back. Like, that's just a total waste of our time.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, she literally probably sent, I should go back and look, but it was hundreds of texts. Like, they were just texting back and forth, back and forth. And he had a walkthrough. What's that?
You didn't want to get on the phone and talk through it?
This was after he had a 35-minute walkthrough call with her. And then after, she like took the time to read line by line and text him every single thing that was wrong with our contract. And so anyways, so,
Is she a lawyer or a frustrated lawyer or something? What's her deal?
no, the deal was she got backed out on by another wholesaler, and we've had a lot of those come to us lately, and they're very guarded. You know, the sellers are very guarded. Like they just got burned. Maybe
Mhm.
someone like backed down on them before closing, or they tried to renegotiate or something. But we find that can be a great opportunity for us, obviously, because they need to sell. You know, they already wanted to close and they didn't. And so it's a great opportunity for us, but you kind of have to come like overcome those objections, and every single objection usually you have to overcome. So, anyways, she said all these texts, they were texting back and forth. And then at the end of the day, I kind of was joking, but I was like, why don't we just tell her to write her own contract at this point? Like she's changed everything in
Yeah,
our
just
contract.
send you over what she wants, and
Yeah, I was like, why don't we just do that? And I was kind of joking about it, and he was too, but he literally told her that. He was like, you know what? We'd like to work with you, but we're not going to change our contract like every single line. That would just kind of defeat the purpose. Why don't you send us over what you'd like to see in the contract and your version of the contract? And she literally did it. So my first time, you were just shared at the top. 7 years in business, I've never had this happen ever. Never ever had this happen. She literally emailed me a contract. Again, she's on a different time zone. So it was like 11 p.m. on a Friday night. She emailed me this contract, and I was awake. We had just like watched a movie or something. And I'm usually not awake that late. But she emailed me a contract, and it was like a full contract. I don't know if she used ChatGPT or maybe
yeah,
she didn't have a lawyer friend, or maybe she was, previous lawyer, whatever. But she said it's a whole contract. So I was like, okay. And so I read through it, and it really wasn't that bad, actually. Like it wasn't that bad when she actually came up and wrote it all out. So like, okay, like we can work with this. And I basically just took it, and I took my contract and I used ChatGPT, and I was like, this is the seller's what they want. This is my contract. Can you like meld it so that it's closer to my contract, but it still is incorporating terms of her contract? And so ChatGPT did that, in 30 seconds. And I sent it back to her, and she was like, yeah, I'm good with this. And I was like, awesome. Because it was pretty much our same contract, just worded a different way at this
yeah.
point. And so at that point, I sent it over to her, and she signed the contract at like 1 a.m. I got a notification the next morning. But anyways, we got under contract on that Saturday, and then we got it sold pretty quick, and we closed this week. So from June 21st up until what was this week? July or something. I forget the date they closed on, but I think it was the 9th. So we
That's
closed in
great.
about 2 weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. So that was pretty good. And wasn't like a huge profit deal by any means, but we made 4,700 bucks on it. So it's still a win at the end of the day.
Funny.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
James G popped in from Chicago. Nice 6 closings with a fire emoji. And
Thank
he said,
you.
start wholesaling in the Chicago suburbs. Local wholesalers don't have the best deals, and the ones that do already have their handful of VIP buyers. And then we had a couple other people on here. So if you're on in the chat, just drop your name, drop where drop where you're listening from. If you have any questions or anything you want to address, just pop into the chat. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Yeah. Good to see you, James. I appreciate the support. And I don't know if I'll start in Chicago, but my dad might. He's been experimenting with a few markets. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah.
We're playing with Florida right now, and
Yeah.
just got another contract in Florida this week. So that's our second one.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I'll turn it over to you then. I want to hear about the Florida update and how your week
You,
went.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted to recognize people in the chat.
No, that was it. I was at the end of my story at that point. It's just kind of a funny story.
Is that your first Alaska seller?
Yeah, my first Alaska seller. That was another like it was a small hurdle, but it was hard to find a notary because it's Alaska and she's in
Yeah.
like a small town in Alaska. So it took us a few days to find a notary, and that delayed our closing a little bit. But she understood about that part. But, but yeah, it was a funny
Did
deal,
you use
man.
123 Notary or Investorboots, or what did you do?
Yeah, we were on 123 Notary and we couldn't find anyone. And so thankfully our closing attorney was able to find some, I'm not sure the service they use, but probably similar to raw signings or something like that. So yeah.
James says the biggest wholesaler aren't realtors here. That law means nothing. I kid you not. It was a way to scare people. Wow. That'd be cool if that's the way it is in North Carolina, too. I think we've talked about this, but North Carolina is trying to pass a very
Yeah.
strict law to get rid of wholesalers. But that's good to hear that you can kind of operate. We're trying to close one in Ohio right now, and we are working with a realtor, and she's charging us a fee to close with her. And I told my brother, like, Ohio's law says you can wholesale one deal every year if you're not a real estate agent. So we don't
Yeah.
really need to go through this agent, but the buyer is an older guy, and he wants to use this agent because he's worked with her for years and he feels comfortable. And we've been trying to just bypass the agent and be like, dude, let's just close this because she's been flaky and she's trying to charge us a fee just to be sort of broker the deal. Like we're paying her a fee. I mean, I think she's getting a fee from him, and then we're going to pay her a little bit of a fee, and then she wants another fee to run the deal through her because she's an agent and we're not agents, So
That's probably what realtors are going to start doing in these states.
yeah, so it's just like, but yeah, that's good news, James. Thanks. So we might peek in to see what we could do. Send me some markets that you'd recommend, and we'll look into maybe doing some campaigns there. Best way to reach me is markcool.org. I think my email's at the bottom of the page there. Or I think I have a whatever, markcool@ivegotahammer.com. So we're switching over to my business, are we?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. And like I said, if you're in the chat, jump in. We've been up to 5 or 6 people, and we've dropped on and off, so people are dropping in and out. But if you're in here, drop us a note. So my week, we didn't close anything this week. We had one that was slated to close on Friday, and one of the sellers said she couldn't sign until Saturday because of her work schedule, and even with a mobile notary, it wasn't going to work for her. So unfortunately, she signed yesterday, and so then the docs should be at the lawyers on Monday, and we should be able to close it on Monday. To the lawyer's credit, shout out Taylor Law. I gave them that deal last week and said, could you close this in a week? And they're like, yeah, we can do it. And they ramped things up and got it going. So they were ready to close on Friday yesterday, but it's going to close on Monday. But that deal was just talking about deals. That was a deal that I think was very backburnered for us, or was pending cancellation. And then the buyer reached out on Craigslist. We had posted on Craigslist, and the buyer reached out and was like, hey, is this still available? I got cash. And it was way lower than the price we listed it for, but it was better than canceling it. And I think it's still going to be like a $7,000 profit. So
that's great.
Yeah. And he was ready to go, just ready to close within. He was like, I'll close it in a week. So, so that was a win, and another Craigslist win, because we talked about Craigslist last week.
Yeah.
But not that, we don't want to overhype Craigslist. It's still a slow channel, but it does bring you buyer leads. So definitely recommend, when you are at your wit's end and you've tried a lot of different things with Dispo, or even just as a basic part of your Dispo strategy, if you've tried your buyer list and your VIP buyers and you're not getting action, throw it up on Craigslist, see what you get. So yeah, that's a vacant lot deal that's in Robeson County, North Carolina, which is where we did, I think, 50% of our revenue last year.
Yeah, we were just talking about that last week.
Yeah, we talked about some areas that not everybody's in, you can do pretty well in. And James sent me some areas to work on, some markets to look into in the Chicago area. So thank you for that.
Nice.
We got some more people in the chat, so drop your name, drop questions or comments or anything. So I'm looking at transactions. We got that one that's supposed to close on Monday. Then we got another one that is delayed, but this is the weird one that there's some title and heirs thing where the lawyer says they can't really get a clear title without finding these people that we've spent 2 months trying to find, and they're either dead or they're completely missing. And so I talked the buyer into just doing a quick claim deed from the seller, and he's okay with it because, the risk is very minimal. So we're going to try and close that one this week. We just need the quick claim deed drawn up, which I could probably do myself, but we're going to have the lawyer do it just for security. And then I'm going to meet this guy, and he's going to hand me a check made out to my business, and I'm going to hand him a quick claim deed, and we'll record it for him. And that's that one. So that's kind of a weird deal. And then what else do we have in escrow here? We got, looks like Jasper, we got one in Sampson and 2 in Robeson, 1 in Franklin and 1 in Alamance, just for North Carolina reference.
That's great.
Yeah. And then we got another one that's been delayed with that law firm that I mentioned earlier. And so the buyer got so fed up with this law firm continuing to ask for more stuff, even after we filed in the state, that he asked if we were using our attorney for the seller side and his for the buyer side. He's like, can we just put everything with your attorney and see if we can actually close this? and this is with a law firm that begins with a Z, Jasper. Um, and so we've sent everything over to our attorney, and the abstract was supposed to be, the title was supposed to be back on Friday. So hopefully we can close that one this week. So we got a chance to finish July strong with a few in here. Then we got the Ohio one I just mentioned. And then we've got another one with a $20K assignment fee on a vacant lot that we're waiting for the title on, but we have a heads up that we may be having some title issues on that. So, who knows? We got like 50K in escrow, and maybe I think we have a strong chance to close like 15 by the end of the month. And then the other stuff is all parts. Yeah. So we got a comment from EZ. Welcome, EZ. Thanks for jumping in. How much money do you need to get started wholesaling land? Jasper, you want to take that one?
Well, that's for you. That's wholesale land.
Oh, wholesaling land. I would say you need zero. So you don't need any money to start wholesaling land. And if you go back to the Jasper and I did episodes where we interviewed each other and did our origin stories, I shared my first land deal that I did, and I did it for zero. I did. I think I paid for a list. I think I paid for a list of sellers, and then I did some direct mail. So I can't say that was zero, but you do need zero because you can go on Propwire and pull a list of seller leads, and then you can skip trace those, which does cost a little bit of money, but you can do that for free if you want to go on places like True People Search and find the people. It would be very tedious, but then you can start calling or texting those people, and you can get a deal, and you can close your first deal with no money down. We're not going to go deep into the nuts and bolts of it, but it doesn't cost much money, and I think we have a lot of videos on getting started and cranking up. And I have an ebook called Your First Land Deal or something like that. It's on my website, markcool.org. Free ebook on getting started in land investing. So check that out, and then shout me out if you have questions. But happy to help you get your first deal, however I can. And Jasper knows how to make deals too. But yeah. So we were talking about the week in business, and if, like I said, if you're in the chat, feel free to drop questions, comments. Let us know where you're in there from. It looks like we got a few people in there. James says there are a lot of new construction going on in my town suburb. Do builders typically buy? Sorry, I probably need my glasses on for this. Looking at my phone. Typically buy 5+ acres, subdivides, and then start construction. I don't know. We see a lot of builders here in this area. Yeah, sure thing, easy. And like I said, grab the free ebook. It's, I just tried to put everything in there I could think of. We've got a lot of content on our channels. And then, shoot us some messages, jump on these lives, and we'll help you however we can. What I see, James, in answer to that is in North Carolina, mostly builders are just buying individual lots, but I think there's just more cost to develop and get permits and rezone stuff. And if you're set up to be a developer and that's your jam, and you're trying to do bigger projects, then you probably have the infrastructure and the mindset to buy bigger things and subdivide. But I see a lot of the people I deal with in North Carolina are just buying individual lots or buying a few side by side that are already subdivided and then building on those. So what else we got here? I guess I was talking about dispo and transactions. With dispo, we've got my company has 7 in disposition. We didn't sell any this week. We got a couple of contracts this week. One was in Florida, which I said I would touch on, Jasper. We got our second Florida contract. It's a piece of vacant land in West Palm Beach County, and it came from an SMS lead. We've been doing some SMS campaigns around Florida using Matt Larson's AI tool for finding the best counties to wholesale in when you're going into a new market.
Mm-hmm.
So this is West Palm Beach, and when I'm pulling it up on Investorbase, there's not a big buyer pool over there. So we'll see how this one goes. And then we have another one in a more populated area called Cape Coral, which is kind of on the Gulf Coast over there in Florida. So these are our first 2 contracts in Florida. Easy says, what's the website for the ebook again? It's just my name, and then it's .org. So my name is Mark Cool, MarkCool, and then it's .org. And that's like my personal website, but then you just push the real estate button, and it'll take you through. It's pretty easy to find. I think there might even, yeah. click on the real estate, and then you'll be able to find it from there. If you can't find it, let me know. So anyway, 2 contracts in Florida and this West Palm Beach one. It's interesting because I was like, wow, this is a building lot that's adjacent to Lake Okeechobee, like a few blocks from it. And there's like hiking and running trails and parks along the lake. And I was like, wow, this is probably a pretty good area. And it's really kind of not a high end area. Like home values are 150 to 175. And the lot is probably only going to retail for 20 to 25. So even in Florida, there's lower price markets. You would think everything, I just have this impression everything's going to be like top dollar and ramped up, especially close to a lake, but it's not true everywhere. So yeah, so that's that. And then we got a contract on a house this week, and it's a vacant house, which is great. I've already ordered the photos through Investorbootz. Jasper, I was texting with you about this week. Thanks. Easy got the link. So cool. Check that out. Let me know what you think, and let me know if I can help. But yeah, we got a house, and where is this house? It's in Red Springs, North Carolina. So that's in Robeson County also, which has been a great market for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's vacant. We got a pretty good price on it. According to using Investorbase for comps, it looks like there's meat on the bone there where we could probably sell it to a flipper. And there are a fair number of flippers in the area after doing that search on Investorbase. So, and we ordered, like I said, I did my first order on Investorbootz, which we've talked about as a tool, but it's you can go on there and they'll hook you up with a notary, or they'll hook you up with somebody to take photos, lockbox, video, a lot of different services. They have lawn mowing, etc. So that'll be my trial run with them. But I did get an affiliate discount through Investorbase. I reached out to their support, and they sent me their affiliate link, and I got a nice discount on my first order. So that's nice. But yeah, so we got that contract. We got the Florida contract, and I think those are the 2 that we got this week. Maybe we got 3. Oh yeah, we got Florida, Sunset. Yeah, and we got another vacant lot this week in Richmond County, which I think I shared this with you, Jasper. But Amazon's building a big data center there, like a $50 billion project in Richmond County.
Really?
So it's kind of on the border with South Carolina and going east. And so they bought a big piece of property, and they're planning a $50 billion AI data center, like AI and development of technology, data center, et cetera, there in Richmond County. And one of our buyers tipped us off to that. One of our VIP buyers is like, yeah, this is going to happen over here. So we're like, okay, we'll do some marketing over there and see what happens. And
I think I have one there too. Is that Rockingham? I think I have one there too.
It's Richmond County.
Yeah, but is Rockingham in there? I have to look it up.
Oh, I don't know. And then another county that I learned some stuff about, and this only matters if you care about North Carolina, but Microsoft just bought 1,300 acres in Person County near the Virginia border, and they're going to build a data center there. So if you're in North Carolina, that's a development that's happening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got those 3 contracts: 2 vacant land, 1 in Florida, 1 in North Carolina, and then 1 house in North Carolina this week. So it's a good week for contracts. And we got a bunch of properties in dispo still, but we're weeding through because we got some that I would categorize as cold. We've done some marketing. We haven't got a lot of interest. They're sort of in the third apron. A couple of these properties way outside of the city limits, and it's harder to sell those. Still got 2 contracts in Ohio that we're going to make one last ditch to move before we cancel them. And we canceled like 4 properties this week ever since I let go of one of my dispo people and then jumped in there and started working on dispo. We've just been going through and reassessing, doing final marketing push or canceling things to kind of thin things out and prioritize and review the quality of our contracts, all that stuff. So, yes, I think we canceled 3 this week, and we've got 2 or 3 pending cancellation. And we're just trying to weed it into the ones we really think we can sell and then put our energy into those. And with dispo, as I mentioned last week, we're doing a lot of calling outreach to buyers that we're finding through Investorbase and building our buyer list and making connections with buyers who might be interested in the area. Then we're doing an SMS follow-up, and then we're using our list within Podio, within our CRM. We're using our buyer list and filtering by that area and by the buyer type that we want, flippers or landlords or whatever. And then we are doing a text blast, which Jasper's mentioned a bunch of times that's working really well for him. But we use Smarter Contact for text blasting, and we just have a separate login for the dispo department, and you can log in there, upload a campaign, and then just blast out text campaigns. Set your templates and blast them out, and that's how we're marketing our properties right now. James says Easy E in the house. And yeah, so I think that's, I don't know what else I have for business. Do you have any other topics, Jasper? You guys who are listening in have any topics you want to touch on?
I was going to ask you just how it's going on the dispo side with these new markets like Ohio, Florida. Are those properties moving? Like I know you have one in Ohio that's ready to close, but have you noticed good action in Florida and Ohio on the buyer side?
Well, in Ohio, it's been really slow so far. And like I said, that could be artificial because our dispo department hasn't been performing the way maybe it should have recently.
Mm,
But we've had sort of slow activity. And I've actually used ChatGPT and gone in there and dropped the address in or the neighborhood and said, what's going on here in terms of building and development and, all that stuff. And it's cool to get those results back because, and this is another dispo strategy, right? I put the neighborhood and the county or in the area into ChatGPT, and I've got a vacant lot here. It's this size. We're looking at this price point. What's going on over there? And I'm finding in Ohio in these urban markets where we have the lots, there's not a lot of activity with builders, and I don't. I mean, it's various reasons because we had stuff in Toledo, in what else? Like three major Ohio cities. But anyway, one cool thing that ChatGPT did was search through like RIA and builders associations and all this stuff and said, here are the 5 or 10 builders who are doing stuff in that area. Reach directly out to these people. And I was like, oh, awesome. So that's my sort of last push for a couple of these lots that have been slow is I actually had ChatGPT do all my research for me and just find the people who are actively building in those neighborhoods or those areas where we have the contracts. And now I can reach directly out to these custom home builders and construction companies and just say, hey, we've got this lot. So that's a pretty cool use of ChatGPT for marketing. So to answer your question, short answer, Ohio, slow for the land deals, but we didn't get any house contracts there. And then Florida, we haven't marketed this one because we're still waiting. The one in Cape Coral is the one where there's a lot of activity. And when you look at Investorbase, there's a ton of activity right around this lot that we got. So I would expect that we'll get a lot of interest fairly early on. But we were trying to get some more information on the HOA and our post-contract review before we jump on the marketing on that. And then the other one we haven't started marketing because it just came in this week. So,
yeah.
but response rates, I think response rates in general in Florida to SMS campaigns are a little bit lower because I think a lot of people are wholesaling over
Mhm.
there, but we are getting responses and we do have 2 contracts and we've been marketing there for about a week. So, I think it's going to be similar to busy markets in North Carolina, like Raleigh and Durham, where the contract rate, the response rates might be lower, but I think once we get contracts in some of these areas, they're going to move. So that's my
Yeah.
initial impression. Yeah. Looks like
Awesome.
we got a bunch more people in here. So if you're in the chat, jump in, drop your name, drop your comments. If you want us to touch on a subject or topic, that's what we're here for right now. We're just talking about real estate and business. So anything that's on your mind or any questions you have, just drop them in. We'll jump on it.
Yeah, James just dropped a couple. He said, I've had great success hiring VAs from Egypt off of Facebook groups, $3 plus commissions, great English for the most part. That's cool. I've never hired from Egypt. That's very cheap.
Yeah, that's cool. And James, I when you're talking about hiring VAs, which is a topic, when you're building a business, and especially if you're just starting out, like this might apply to you. Easy is just like maybe you're too early for this, but you can get, like James said, you can get somebody for $3 an hour who speaks really excellent English and might have real estate experience. So for cold calling or text blasting or whatever, I I just got some candidates sent to me from Scale Army, and we're looking for dispositions help and maybe acquisitions. But some of the people just present really well, and their accent is very clean, even maybe slightly British, and that's important when you're hiring a VA because you need them to be able to be well understood. And so, yeah, I haven't hired anybody from Egypt, but I've seen some really good candidates from there who present really well and speak very well. So, good point.
Yeah, definitely. And then he said, how many states do you guys wholesale in? I guess we could answer that. I just wholesale in North Carolina, and I think my dad's in 3 states now, so that's awesome.
Yeah.
And then have you noticed higher spreads when you see the seller in person? I haven't met a seller since 2020, so I can't really answer that. I have heard people online say that you do get better deals when you meet in person. I would say all of my biggest deals have came after I transitioned to being virtual, but that's probably just because I got better at business in general. But yeah, I think you can probably get better discounts when you meet in person. I would say so. I mean, me personally, I'm not a great closer on the phone, like I'm average, but when I was in person, I pretty much closed like almost everyone I went on an appointment with. So I would say that it's much easier to close people in person, at least for me, at least for me.
Yeah, no,
So
I agree. I agree. I mean, especially in the digital age where there's a lot of suspicion around scams and things like that. That's almost always or often something you have to overcome when you're running a virtual business. Is this, are you a real business? Are you a real person? You know, are you just trying to scam me and steal my property?
yeah,
That kind of stuff. So in person definitely is very effective, but it's not very scalable.
yeah,
You have to go on a lot of appointments yourself, or you have to have a sales team who can go do that. But that said, it's effective. So if you're getting a higher conversion rate, then maybe it's worth it, especially if you're starting out and doing not a lot of volume of deals
yeah.
and you want to convert at a higher rate, not generating as many leads.
And it limits you too, because you can't go nationwide if you're in person, at least not immediately. It's going to take you a lot of time. So
Yeah.
you're kind of limited to just a couple markets if you're doing it that way. But yeah, I think if you're just starting out, I think in person is much easier to start with. So I'm definitely glad that I started with in person. I'll say that. I think it's
Yeah.
much easier. Uh,
And it builds your muscles of sales and negotiation at meeting people in person. It
yeah,
builds up your confidence. It builds up your willingness to overcome obstacles and ability to do hard things, which is what real estate is. You just have to keep doing one hard thing after another until you get the result you're trying for, which is a closed deal.
yeah,
It's climbing over obstacles, and that's good training for that.
yeah. Yeah,
um,
I remember I used to be scared to cold call, and then once I started going on appointments, I wasn't scared to cold call anymore because that was much more scary to
yeah.
go and meet someone in person.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely less scary to do it over the phone, but you got to get over that fear to be successful. So, and then he said, you guys track how many SMS per contract or how many SMS per lead? I'm guessing you mean like how many in total we send out. I just looked at this for my second quarter. So my second quarter stats. Every 750 texts outbound equals one lead, and that equals 38,000 texts per deal for me last quarter. So
Wow.
that, that's my numbers.
I would
Um,
have to ballpark it, but I could ballpark it because we do 5,000 a day times 6 days, so that's 30K a week, right? So that's 120 per month, 120K per month, and we're
yeah,
getting just say an average of 10 contracts, right?
yeah,
100 per month. So what does that come out to? 120,000 divided by 10, 12,000 texts
12,000.
per contract.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I don't know. So if I did the leads on that and we're doing 40 leads a week, 160, right? 12. We're doing like 40 or 50 leads, 120 divided by just say 200 leads, 600 texts per lead. And you said 750. So, and we're
yeah,
probably getting better lead, uh, probably getting a slightly better ratio because we're doing more land and that's got a less competition than what you're dealing with only houses. So we're in the same ballpark,
yeah,
600, 750 texts per lead
for sure.
ballpark.
Yeah, so I think you can probably expect somewhere around there. And those, I just know those numbers because I made a post about it for Q2, but also that's just for Q2. So from Q3, we've gotten contracts from leads that came in Q2, so our numbers will just improve over time. But yeah, I'd say we're probably about the same if we're just doing a ballpark on a monthly basis.
And then
Um,
James says, my VAs tell me they get paid 150 from agencies and sell them to us for 5 to 8 an hour. Yeah, that's the way the agencies work. They make
yeah.
money off it. I mean, it's kind of a good business model. And it's maybe something, we should consider doing because we're pretty good now at interviewing and filtering through
Yeah.
applicants, and there's a lot of people who do it. And yeah, and so a good story about that is we have a really great acquisitions guy on our team now and he worked for one of those agencies. And so we were able to get him directly into our business, probably at a lower rate than if we had paid him through the agency. And the agency cut him loose, or he didn't have a placement for him when one of his placements ended, and he put himself out on the market. And so now he's making more money because he doesn't have a middleman, and we have a quality team member for probably less than we would pay through an agency. So
Yeah.
we found him on Upwork, which is a good platform if you're looking to hire people, VAs in the Philippines. And a lot of people have the opinion that Filipino VAs are some of the best in the world because they have a good work ethic, and they generally, a lot of them have really good English. And yeah, I think those are the main reasons, right? And they're
Yeah.
affordable compared to U.S. workers.
Definitely. But yeah, James, if you're finding people with $3 an hour in Egypt, you could start yourself a little business and start selling those people for 9, 10, 12, $15 an hour. They're
Yeah,
really,
which is what Scale Army and Somewhere.com are doing.
yep. I mean,
They're
these
using,
companies turned into massive, massive companies doing that exact thing. So
yeah,
it's definitely good practice, good business model,
yeah.
the big margin. So yeah.
Um, yeah. So should we talk about firing since we're talking about hiring? We got a few minutes left here in the hour. If anybody has anything else?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of a topic because you just let a longtime team member go this week, and I let one go a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. I don't know when I let him go. Two
Yeah.
weeks ago, maybe. Yeah. So the flip side of hiring is letting people go and recognizing when it's time to let them go, and when they're not a fit or their productivity has dropped off. And one of the things we were talking about is the wind that you get beneath your wings when you let somebody go that's been an energy drain or a black hole in your business, and you didn't realize how bad it was until you finally let them go. But what I realized for myself, and I'm working on a blog post about this, is that, like, I knew in my gut months and months ago, long time ago, and I didn't honor my gut. I just kept trying to be practical about it and be honorable and be faithful and loyal and give somebody a chance and all those things. But we have a duty to ourselves and to our businesses and to the other people on the team to take action when we know something's not right. And so that's something I've learned from letting go of a team member who'd been with us for 2 years, who I really cared about as a person, but wasn't um, the right fit for the business and where our goals are and what we needed from that role. So anyway, you got anything to add to that with your experience this week?
No, I mean, it's great advice. I feel the same way. I just, yeah, I was looking at it through my lens and I just had to reverse it, like you said, and look at it through the company's lens for my other team members because it's not fair to other people if someone's not pulling their weight. So I think,
Yeah.
I think that makes it more black and white for me when I take myself out of the equation. I'm just thinking about my team because I love my team, and I don't want them to be dragged down by a non-performing person or a less performing person. So,
Yeah, and it can taint your leadership a little bit too if you let that go on for too long, because then
yeah,
people are looking at you going, "Why is this guy, letting this happen?"
yeah.
Um, So yeah, if you're in the chat, we've got a few minutes left here. Let us know what's on your mind and what you want to talk about. We're just recently talking about hiring and firing VAs, but we can run the gamut from SMS marketing, which we've talked about a little bit, to lead generation, to closing deals, to whatever. So if you got something you want to chat about, drop it in there, and we'll jump on it.
Yeah, SMS has been great. We've just been increasing the new account every single week. It's just more and more leads. It's crazy. I keep expecting it not to work, but it keeps working. So
And you're doing the same counties over and over too, right?
yeah, same stuff. Yeah.
And but you're not getting people saying, "Leave me alone. I've already told you no," that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But we're still getting a great cost. Like our cost per lead is like 30 bucks or less every month consistently, and we're getting a bunch of leads. And so it's great. It's awesome.
And so you're getting a fair number of people also saying, "Put me on the DNC."
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we
Yeah.
get a lot of not interested people for sure.
Our SMS guy has been getting like, "Dude, I already told you, like, stop." He's
Yeah.
you're going too often in some of these markets.
Yeah. But no, that's been working well, and PPC's been working a lot better too, so that's been good.
That's good. Yeah. I'm about to jump on that too, because now that our website's been revamped, I'm gonna start doing the AdSense thing and make sure our SEO is solid. So
Hmm.
so we can get some inbound leads. And yeah, I guess if you're listening, that's another way you can get free leads. Build yourself a basic website, and if you can figure out how to do SEO on your own, which is free, just have to learn how to do it, and you can figure out how to use Google AdSense and set a budget for yourself. You can get leads for fairly cheap. It does take compounding. It takes time,
Yeah.
as Jasper's learned and shared about on previous podcasts. But he's getting inbound leads for essentially for free, even though you spent money to pay people to do AdSense for you and all that stuff. But once you have it clicking and you're appearing in search results, then it's almost like free leads. So uh, James is saying it's a not a bad idea. New business idea unlocked. Yeah, there are a few people doing it, but you can always improve on the model, right? So just look at what other people are doing and do it better. Uh, and then cold calling agency that provides talents, or cold call agency that provides 2 warm leads a day, $200 a dialer, 320 salary. Uh, I don't know. There's a lot of people doing the cold calling agencies. We've talked about that on other podcasts. Call Geeks, and what's the other one we've used?
Yeah, Call Geeks, Hypercallers, Rapid Assistance.
Yeah, Rapid Assistance.
Uh, yeah, there's a lot of them. I mean, I would say, is it better to do either one? That's just up to you. I mean, if you're going to provide talent, that's a much bigger business that you could grow it into. If it's just a cold call agency, you'd probably be fairly limited. But I would, I don't know. It's just up to you, really. I mean, there's a lot of need for the cold call agency, but
Yeah, I would say that the cold call, from our experience, it's definitely not been mastered by any of these agencies because we haven't been getting
no.
amazing results. So
But
that's
to James' point, I think the reason why is because he said, "Do you think these cold call agencies take the best leads?" Yes, absolutely they do.
for sure.
Absolutely.
And then they sell the leads or they work the leads. Yeah.
No, they just take them for themselves. I mean, I have proof of that. So yeah,
Do you have proof of that?
yeah. So that's definitely. I mean, if you want to be someone like that, then that's another way to make money too, right? If you steal all the best leads. But I think it's a great business model, even if you're being completely honest. It's still a high margin business. But yeah, I know of one cold call agency that does that, so I'm sure they all do, or
Yeah.
most of them
That's
do.
why they perform so poorly. So if you want to be a cold call agency with integrity and not skim the leads off the top, then you probably could rise to the top of the heap pretty fast with the cold calling broker business.
Yeah, yeah, because I mean, Call Geeks does the same thing where they promise 2 leads a day, and I think 2 leads a day is very low. When I had my own callers, I was getting 5, 6, 7 leads a day, so I think they're definitely skimming some of those leads off for sure.
Yeah,
So
or you're constantly getting people who are new cold callers who are not that good, and they put people on a rotation and stuff like that. So if you actually take the time to train really good cold callers and then train people to train your cold callers and have a standard of quality across the board. I mean, I would say, well, I can't say Rapid Assistance does that because I didn't have any really better results with Rapid Assistance than
yeah,
I did with Call Geeks. So I
yeah.
was going to say they might be a good example of that, but I think they did train people really well in the beginning, but I think they fell off maybe.
Hmm.
But yeah, anybody in the chat got anything else to chew on? Anything else you want to chat about? What else do I have on my list here? We talked about hiring and firing, Investorbootz. We talked a little bit about reviews and 1-star reviews and what not to do. We could talk about that because I wrote that down. We got another 1-star review last week.
Oh man,
Yeah, and it's the same pattern, and this is the thing that Jasper was talking about earlier on this episode, is just like, you can't let people dangle. You can't promise and not deliver, especially if you promise and don't deliver over a long time horizon, which is part of why this guy gave us a 1-star review, because we got pictures, and Jasper, I sent you this deal and the pictures, and I was like, man, we've got this at way too high of a price. But he had sent us some pictures early on, and we decided we were going to get our own pictures, which took another 2 weeks. And by that time, then we canceled on him, and he was really pissed. He was like, you should have looked at my first pictures and canceled on me.
yeah,
And he was right. Like, it was a weird property, but we just couldn't get our heads around the property and what it actually was. And it was built, I think, in the 60s, and it just had some weird architectural features. And then it was one of these homes that I hate. And I've dealt with these, you probably dealt with these, Jasper, but where the homeowner thinks he's handy, but he's not handy enough to make it look professional.
Yeah.
And so you get things like you get a picture and there's two roof lines that meet, going different ways. And then there's a window right under one roof line, but really close to the edge or something. And it just looks wrong,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so it's like, yeah, it's not leaking, but it doesn't look good from the outside. And, they're just like, and he did a fruit cell and he did this and that, and he rebuilt the deck, but it looked a little weird. And, so he's like a DIY guy, but he's probably handy in another world. Like maybe he's a landscaper or he's a whatever, but he's not a great carpenter or,
Mhm.
so anyway, it was one of those, and we just should have recognized earlier that it was a weird property and what year it was built, and then homeowner repairs and all the upgrades it needed, and canceled it or price reduced it earlier. And so I would just say, one of the best practices to avoid 1-star reviews and making people mad and pain in your company among your team is to make decisions fast, right? Just like if try and figure out as early as possible if something's not going to work and let the seller know either A, we need to cancel this, or B, we need a much lower price for this to work. And do that within 2 weeks, and you're probably going to avoid a lot of heartache on everybody's part.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
that's my 1-star review rant.
No, that's good. That's good
Now
advice.
we have 2 1-star reviews. We have a lot of 5. We still have an average like 4.8 on Google, but we have 2 1-star reviews, and they show up higher because they're more recent.
Yeah.
So that sucks.
Yeah, definitely sucks. Only thing you can do is just bury them with 5-star reviews. But that was actually another win we had this week. We got a bunch of 5-star reviews this week.
Nice.
That was
That's
good.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
we
now,
had a 5. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying, but now I got that deal I was sharing with you where I don't know if we're gonna be able to close it. So I feel like that might be a 1-star coming our way. So we'll see.
So the problem with being more visible on the web is then you're more likely to get those reviews.
Yeah.
Uh,
And
but
I feel like one star is worth like 25 stars. Like it brings your rating down so much. Like, yeah, it's frustrating. But
yeah, um, yeah. James says, "Do you guys have a Yelp page?" No, we're talking about Google Business reviews. So we both have Google Business pages, and then we normally direct people to our Google Business page if we know they've had a positive experience. Like, hey, would you mind giving us a review? Take a minute, and it'll help us help other great people like you, something like that. And then a lot of times people will do it. Jasper has, I think, a better process than we do, where he does a couple of follow-ups to get reviews. We're working on automating that so that we do an initial follow-up and then automate a reminder. But it really helps if you can build up more and more these days. People look you up online and say, is this a real business, or are they a good business? And so those reviews really help.
yeah. Yeah, I do have a Yelp page. I just don't use it. So I funnel everyone to Google, like you said.
James says a guy in my market has 100K profit flips, and he has an agency that a lot of people use in the same market. He does business in Chicago and suburbs. He has a cold calling agency. Huh, that's cool. I mean,
That's awesome.
there are a lot of ways to do business around all this business, and there are a lot of people jumping into wholesaling because there's so many YouTube tutorials on how to do it. So you got people to sell services to. If I guess people have to close a few deals to be able to sell services to them, but
Yeah.
yeah. So we're coming down to the end here. Anybody have any last final things who's in the chat to talk about before we wrap it up? Appreciate everybody jumping in today and joining us on the chat. And it's great to have questions and comments and people from all over jumping in. Um, yeah, he says he has an agency, so I wonder if he takes the best leads. Probably, you know.
Probably yes. Probably. But I won't come to assumptions, but most likely yes. Yeah, if he's always posting about 100K flips, I would say yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Because the cold call agency that me and multiple friends used to work with were always posting about 100K flips and always stealing our leads. So yes, I would say yes. But that's okay. That's our choice to work with them, so they can do whatever they want, technically.
Yep, real estate's a cutthroat business, and people will, you know, people have different levels of what they judge as integrity
Yeah,
around what what justifies. I don't know how to say that, but Jasper, when we did the interviews, I talked to you about some people earlier in my real estate life when I was in my 20s that just had different standards for integrity than a lot of people do. But real estate attracts more people who have different standards of integrity because the dollars are
yeah,
bigger.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, thank you, James. We appreciate you tuning in today, and Easy as well. So appreciate you
Yeah,
guys.
we had a bunch of people in and out, but not everybody commented. So, if you're in here, please drop your comments and questions, or just shout out where you're from or whatever, because we like to hear from people.
Yeah,
And yeah, thanks, James. Always great to have you on. And we will look into the Chicago thing. We got to get this Florida thing dialed first, but we'll definitely look into it. Be cool to do some business together.
for sure. Yeah,
And yeah, we're doing this every Sunday, 12 to 1. So join us live and we'll post it again when it's upcoming. But yeah, I guess that's the week in business for now.
yeah, that's a
Great week.
wrap. Appreciate you guys. Have a great week.